anything else, you'd need the 10,000 square foot density to be met. One other quick point is that I feel that if Article 2 failed, and Article 3 passed, the project still could go forward. There just wouldn't be any brownfield loan available, but the project would probably still go ahead. I mean, have to be a business decision.
White shirt.
Is this is a copy of the lease, the proposed lease? I picked it up when I came through the door.
Yes.
Is it? Okay, why doesn't it describe on here the part that says development premises? It describes the school, it describes the easement to get to it. Why doesn't it describe that third parcel? It's all one lease, right? It's covered that 10 acres. All eyes were on you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand your question.
Alan,
But,
this lease was written up by you. In this lease, you described this piece of property right here. You also described this easement across here. I want to know why this part is not described equally as well in this ground lease.
it says the school premises are a portion of the total lease premises
Yep.
containing 10.3 acres plus the excluded premises. So that defines the school premises.
Then we have Schedule A.
Right. So the 10.3 acres is what's depicted on Schedule B. So that's what shows what the development premises is. It's defined by reference to the exhibit. So you can see the exhibit, what's the development premises, and you can see the calculations of how the density or how the acreage is calculated.
That's not answering my question. My question is, you describe parcel 1, you describe the easement. Why don't you describe parcel 3? It's part of this agreement. This lease covers all of that property. The part that's highlighted in yellow, the part that's highlighted in green. Why is it all on this document? This document should represent everything. You're shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, I see it, Oscar. I don't know how much more I can explain it. Here's the exhibit showing what's being leased. Here's the
But
lease
what are
that
these
makes
people
reference.
gonna vote on now? Are they gonna vote just on this green part, on this yellow part, or nothing?
Both.
Then why isn't it in here?
Well, it is. I mean, you don't see it, but I see it. That's all I can say.
All right, I have one last question. You said that the town has, or somebody said the town has an agreement with the developer, already signed, to allow them to be doing work there.
We have an option agreement, yes.
Okay, what is the amount of money that was deposited? You don't have a legally binding contract, you have to have consideration. How much consideration was given for that?
No money has changed hands.
And how do you have a legally binding contract?
We have an option agreement that allows the Dayton folks to be in there to do some minimum remediations prior to the votes. And they've provided us a certificate of insurance with us, giving us protection.
Thank you.
There may have been a couple more over here, is there any more on this side? Yeah.
I spoke before about Article 3 being open-ended, and I still feel that it is. I'm trying to get clarification, so I'm an informed voter. I'd really like Tom's question answered. If Article 2 fails, conveying the deed for 180 days, does Article 3 give you the power to do it?
The answer is yes.
I played the word game, I kinda know.
It's getting repetitive now, but go ahead.
Yeah,
Alan.
well,
Well,
I
it wasn't
mean,
really
it may be asked in a little different way, and it's worth answering if you don't understand it, because it is a little confusing. Article 3 gives the Board of Selectmen the authority to enter a long-term lease agreement to lease the property. Now, if the Batemans, I mean, our understanding is if they can't get the remediation done the way they need to have it done, they're out of the project. Now, the selectmen will have the authority, if they wanted to work out an arrangement with someone else, just like, you know, they were given the authority initially, I guess, to sign a 75-year lease. So in theory, they could enter into an agreement with someone else for the leasing of the property.
With all due respect, Mr. Shepherd, and related documents for the leasing, is the 180-day deed needed to make this happen for the lease? So can it therefore be conveyed by the Board of Selectmen if Article 3 was to pass and Article 2 wasn't?
Now, in my opinion, and I can give it right here, the town has to have specific authority to deed town-owned property. It cannot be something that's couched in the terms of a lease authorization and it be other documents. Conveying title very specifically has to be done by town meeting authority. So unless Article 2 passes, the town does not have the authority to convey title by virtue of there being some language in Article 3 that talks about related documents.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Rodriguez. I wonder if Article 3 would have passed a couple years ago when the town voted, would we even be having this discussion now? Or with an article as broad as Article 3, would the selectmen have had everything in their power to do this all behind closed doors without any discussion from the town?
Okay. Just for a point of reference, the selectmen can't do anything behind closed doors unless they're in executive session, number one.
That's how everything's done.
I'm glad that I gave, it's always good to laugh. Glad I gave you something to laugh about.
Thanks, Alan.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Number two, what you're asking is, again, sort of another variation of the same theme of, like, what authority they have in the context of, why don't you repeat your question?
Yeah, for instance, what the town voted to
Oh, I
approve
see,
was a
yes.
75-year lease.
Right.
What's being considered now is a 99-year lease. In Article 3, there's no lease term
That's right.
here. Oscar asks, what lease are we voting on? We're not voting on any lease, we're voting on an article to give the select board the authority to do a
Any lease.
50-year lease, a 100-year
Excuse me,
lease,
sir.
a
Right here, right
150-year lease, a 200-year lease, or a 500-year
Right,
lease.
but that's true. And I think your first question was, if this warrant article was passed several years ago without a term in it,
Yes.
would you be here? And the answer is
Yes.
yes, because of the conveyance of title. So that
Well,
wouldn't have given you the right to convey
And I
title.
question that because we're talking about thin profit margins, and we're talking about profit margins over 100 years. So if the select board increased the term to 150 years, does that change the $50,000 ballgame? As Bateman is explaining, it's that tight, this project is that tight. So perhaps we could work around this deal and we would not be having this discussion. The second part is lease term, of course, is tied to finances and tied to what's good for the town. And I've asked the question at the last meeting, I've asked it tonight, I got an indication that I'm not going to get an answer. I need to have an answer to the question, what is the financial benefit to this town for this project? When this was started, a lot of talk about how bad that building is and how much it's gonna cost to clean it up. and how all that was gonna be done for us free is a great boon to Berwick. Well, let me tell you, maybe because the town erred in accepting the building, we couldn't get the grant funding to clean it up. But anybody who develops that building, other than the town, will have the option for these same grants. So we do not need to accept low-income housing to save that $450,000. And what I need answered for economic viability is, what is the financial advantage to the town to going forth with this project? Understanding what the projected costs are to the school, to the police department, to the fire department, to the Department of Public Works, to everything. And as a town manager, you don't recommend anything without the cost and the return. You mentioned that there's a lot of variability. How full are the units gonna be? Well, what's the high end and what's the low end? What is the answer to that question?
You asking me?
I'm asking the board, I'm asking you.
You know, you're in a position right now, totally speculative. How many, the units that are gonna be there, how many kids are gonna be in there, how many are not gonna be there, how many units are gonna be filled? Those are speculative questions. What impact it's gonna have on the police department? I can't answer that. Who's gonna be able to tell you if you're gonna have crime related to those units? You can look at some other background information and what other communities are doing, which we'll do.
Which you will do, you asked us 2 years ago to say, we were asked 2 years, when are we going to do it? We are told a unit must be occupied January 1st for this even to go over. That's what you told us at the last meeting. You wanna know when we're gonna do this? When we're further in the hole, when we're trying to dig ourselves out, and we're gonna say, where is this boom that we got? Where is what was promised us? That's when we're gonna do that. And we do speculate. When we look forward to business decisions, we do speculate. We speculate at the high end, and we speculate at the low end. And that's what a manager does. So what is the cost benefit to this town? Where do the numbers lie? Why is this such a good deal for Berwick?
I think you have an excellent question here, because I really do believe that, in fact, I, for one, have thought for a long time, it's gonna be 55 years and older.
Yes.
Everybody did. I was told, no, it's gonna be affordable housing. And I've heard all kinds of definitions for affordable housing. Or I have my own definition, which probably is not right, but. But I do think that's a study that we should do. I really think, between now and the 24th, we should look and see what these things do cost us in the town. If we get a lot of children up there, we all know what that's doing to this community. I mean, this year our school budget increased $600,000. And it was, and that was because we had all these children that are coming into Berwick. So there is some costs with this, so there's no doubt about it. We will get tax dollars, that's one thing we will get, and we will get it assessed along with the rest of the town. They will not do the assessing, we will, but, and we will get tax dollars. And I'm one, probably, I'm not the only one here, but I graduated from that high school, just a little building, and I want to preserve that historical building, whatever, so, I don't know.
And I support that, and we support that, and there are other ways to do that can be cost effective. And you just said what I've heard over and over. I thought that was gonna be 55 plus housing.
Yeah.
When we looked at it before, there were different bedroom occupancies and everything else. What you're being told by your town manager tonight is that continues to change. We don't know what's gonna be in there for units, and that's unacceptable.
That's not
when
true.
we're-
Excuse me,
That's
sir.
not true.
That's what I
You
heard.
have
It's too
34
speculative.
affordable units in there, sir. That's what's been approved by the planning board to go into that project.
But how many one bedrooms, how many two bedrooms?
It's in the agreement. It's part of the package.
And my contention would be that's enough information to say what a low cost to the town would be and what a high cost to the town would be. And I wanna say, as recently as the last select board meeting, I incorrectly argued with somebody from the town who again was telling me, what we're getting here is what South Berwick has. This is not what South Berwick has.
That's very
This
high.
is not, and when you bring in housing and you cap the amount that the occupants can own, unfortunately, there is no incentive to go to work, because as you work, you lose your housing. And that's what you're bringing to Berwick.
We'll be wrapping this up here, I'll take a couple more over here. Ms. Levine, you have to, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm actually leaving, but I just wanna say, you guys seem like nice gentlemen, but this whole plan stinks.
True.
Dave Stolpe. Oscar kind of opened my eyes on one specific thing. Can we clarify in Schedule A what the excluded premises is? When you look at the school premises, it's 93,101 square feet, very specific. Development area, 338,909 square feet. And all of a sudden you get to the excluded premises, 5,000. Is that a number that was picked out to make all of the other numbers work for? Because if you measured off everything in that building, I'm pretty sure it's more than 5,000, and it's not exact. Not to the 1 foot like the other ones is. Is that doable?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question.
Okay. Thank you.
So to reiterate part of what that woman said as she left, I've actually sat where you guys are sitting, and I have great sympathy for you. I've built malls in towns that don't want them. Then I came back and built the second one, which they wanted less. So it's not your organization, your way of doing things that's at question here. It's really, and now turn to you guys. If you need these to pass, I think what everybody's trying to tell you is they need to be clearer. Otherwise, you're going to get no's across the board, and I think that's a disservice to the work that these guys have put into it over, I didn't realize it was 3 years, but, and I would disagree respectfully that I understand the legal terms. I understand the application of them. But I would think the way Article 3 is written, the lease agreement and related documents, I believe you could draw a dotted line to the title being conveyed as a related document because it's put the project in hardship, giving this group in executive session the ability to make a decision by your own words is only possibly transpired by the legislative, the public. So I would ask, with all due respect to you guys, if you want these to pass, I don't see them passing, because, and I don't know if you take everything everybody's saying, nobody's writing anything down, but, no offense. All right, I know you write everything down. That's why I don't use bad words. But if you really want these to pass, I don't think there's no strength of language, and I mean, no offense, you admitted to drafting the warrant articles. I just think that without intention, you've created a very broad area that is going to mean a lot of discomfort for the voters. First and foremost, it's going to be very easy for people to say, I don't like the whole deed thing. Article 2 is gonna go. Well, Article 3, we'll give them the right to lease it, because that's still good for the town. And that's where it gets gray. So, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but it's because the language is weak, the language is broad, and at the risk of offending people, I think it's been made clear that as a group, you've done things that haven't been in the best interests of the town. And you've defended them as legal, but that doesn't mean they were in the best interest of the town. So I think that's where the suspicion is.
I'd like to say one more thing that I brought up. Tom asked about insurance, and that was liability insurance at $3 million. But then going over into casualty insurance, there's no amount in there. Would you have to wait for that till after the building is completed to get it, or?
What we have as part of our financing, Maine Housing Authority and our construction lender require us to have a replacement value equal to our construction cost. So we will have a insurance policy equal to the full replacement value of that as part of the financing terms. So really what the town's looking to for protection is protection for slip and falls or someone walking on the property and whatnot. And that's where that $3 million clause comes in. So if someone walks on the property and slips and falls on something, there's a liability claim to that amount.
Well, I understand that, but I also think the town should be interested in if the place burns down.
And that's correct, our underlying financing, you're paying those dollars to actually put
Do
those,
the town?
requires insurance to be placed on that. And I believe the lease actually, I'm not sure if it calls it specifically out, it requires us to have insurance to insure the facility itself, not just the casualty insurance. And the insurance level for the replacement value for a fire, an earthquake, or a damage is, that amount is set by our lender, who actually is providing those construction dollars. So it's equal to a full replacement value of the building, which at this point I believe is, has been deemed at $4.8 million for the construction value, for that replacement value.
So the town is covered if,
You have it both
no
ways.
matter what happens.
You have, that's correct, you have it both ways.
I know, the liability, anyone
That's
understands liability. The casualty, we are going to be covered.
It's like when you have, if you're a renter of a property and you have someone coming in, you have your overall liability insurance for the facility, but then the renter has renter's insurance. That's essentially the same coordination here. We're having renter's insurance for the entire building, that for the life of the project, that will ensure full replacement of that facility if something did happen.
Okay, that answers
Does
that.
that
Thank you.
help clarify?
I'm taking one more, we gotta move on here. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, just one quick comment, because I finally did the math on the square footage of the community center itself, that's when I was in that building, we measured it, and it's 40 by 60 if I'm not mistaken. The building in itself then is 2,400 square feet, and it's a lot smaller than the rest of the structures out there, so there's no way that 5,000 feet is gonna cover all that building out there. So somebody's calculations actually good at this.
Okay, I'm gonna close down on the comment on the, what are you looking for now?
We need to entertain a motion in a second on the warrant. And approve the signing of the warrant, so we then can hold the open town meeting on the 24th.
So moved.
Discussion.
Yes. I understand that once this is signed, no wording can be changed. And this is what is gonna be on the ballot.
That is correct.
And I understand all that. However, I really would like to see it made clearer. So that the people that have spoken here tonight and some of their concerns put in there. Because I just think they have a right to feel as though that they wanna be comfortable when they're signing over some of the town land. Because we as a board cannot sell an inch of this town, which is But I would like to have them comfortable with the fact that we're signing over that for 180 days. And there's no way we can do that?
Well, we have Alan here, so maybe this is a great question that we can ask at this point. I mean, if the selectmen go ahead and sign the warrant, then that provides the mechanism that we begin the process of proper notices to the fact that we're going to have an open town meeting to discuss those articles. Would it be your view that at an open town meeting, that those articles could be modified? If there's votes taken to change them, or will they have to be acted upon as they're written?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I can answer that right off the top of my head. I think that there are certain things that can be modified on the town meeting floor, and I'd have to look at the special town meeting language.
Or they can be amended? Any
I would
article in
think
town
it
meeting
could
can be amended?
Right, I think it could be amended. But really what you're talking about, and I hear what people are saying, I mean, there's certainly out of this group, some skepticism about giving the selectmen too much authority, I understand that. But the language that's drafted was to try to avoid having to go back to a town meeting vote again if there had to be a change in the lease. One of the gentlemen brought up a very good point about the 5,000 square foot designation on this, and I suspect that that's not accurate. It would have to be something that's, I think it points to the two buildings to shows that these are the excluded premises, so I think that it's clear enough, but there is that number would need to be looked at. So tomorrow, I'm going to speak with the Bateman's attorney, who hired Northeast Civil Solutions, and ask them how they calculated the 5,000. So if we had a warrant article that said you're going to adopt this lease as Exhibit A, and Exhibit A with a date on the lease is available in the town's clerk's office, that's the only thing you can sign, if that's what the warrant article says. So, maybe out of an exercise of over-caution, I put the extra language in there, saying that it's upon terms and conditions that you feel are in the town's best interest, just in case these last-minute changes came up. I'm just still a little reluctant to tell you that you should vote to get authority to sign a specific lease, because I had a conversation with Ron Wood this morning, because Bangor Savings Bank financing requires the town to sign a subordination agreement, and if I start explaining this, your head's gonna start rolling, because it took 3 explanations from Ron, and I had to read some of it to understand what it is. In the end, it's fine. I don't think the town is harmed at all by agreeing to it, but it was something that Bangor Savings Bank would require the town to sign. And if we didn't have the authority for you to sign these additional documents, then there could be questions about whether you had the authority to do it. There's a lot of distrust here in this board, in this country. It's all over the place, and I understand that. But it's very difficult to get to a point where, you're talking about a specific document, and given the complexity of the financing, to leave it to the point where, we say this is all the selectmen can sign associated with this. So I think, unfortunately, you have to have it be vague and open, but, understand it's not written to give the selectmen some authority to do some backdoor deal where the first article doesn't pass and you can't convey title, and then you're gonna use the second article to convey it. I just, can't imagine that's, people are gonna believe that would happen. But nevertheless, people, hey, yeah, no, I understand, I hear what you're saying, so I understand people's perception, of reality, and perception becomes reality if that's what everybody believes. But nevertheless, we're having to draft things in a way to make it legal. This is what it looks like. You can change the language, but again, to repeat, to get back to what you're saying, Elna, I don't know what language you would want them to change on the town meeting floor that would make these people comfortable. Some of them would be comfortable no matter what language you use, because they're not happy with the project, so that's really not the issue. But I'm not sure what you would be amending on the town meeting floor that would make a difference to certain people, unless you had the lease and said, this is the lease we're gonna sign, and every